Given a frequency distribution, we can find descriptive statistics. The mean, median, mode, standard deviation, range, okay, all those different descriptive statistics. So given this example, with the number of classes, sample of CCC students said they take this semester, remember that to read this, 12 students said they take one class, 9 students say they took 2 classes, and so on. When you look at the frequency column, when you add those up, 12, 9, 18, and so on, you would get the sum of that frequency column, so the sum of F. There's actually 100 students in that. So there's 100 students in our sample. So to find the sample mean and standard deviation for the number of classes students take, doing this by hand will be fairly tedious. So what we're going to do is use our calculator, and we want to put our data into list 1. So we're going to press stat and then enter. I already have my values in there. List 1 is your number of classes, and list 2 is the corresponding frequency. So that's pretty easy to enter in there. If you need to pause the video to do that, go ahead. I'm just going to keep on going to keep this shorter. Okay, to find the descriptive statistics, press stat and then calculate 1 var stats. Now the only difference though is before, if you looked at previous videos, we only had one list of data in list 1. Well, now we only have one variable still, that variable being the number of classes that students take. The frequency is not a variable. That just tells you how many times your variable is occurring. So you have to be very careful with that. Okay, that's something that trips up a lot of people. So we do 1 var stats. On my calculator, I want to do second 1 for list 1. Now, comma, second 2. So that means I want to do 1 var stats on list 1, and list 2 is the frequency. If you have a different operating system, it might say xlist and frequency. So your xlist you want to have as list 1, and your frequency, the FREQ, you want to put L2 in. Okay, so I'll press enter, and I get 3.49 for the sample mean, and the sample standard deviation, 1.259. Okay, so I'll just write those down quick. This is a sample, so the sample mean is x bar, 3.49, and lowercase s for the sample standard deviation is 1.259. Okay, and then we want to find the mode and the median. Okay, well, the mode is the data value that occurs most often, and the highest frequency is 40. So the number of classes, the data value that occurs the most is 4. So mode equals 4. Okay, and then as far as finding the median, well, we can go to our 1 var stats that we already calculated, and that gives us also the median is 4. It also gives us the quartiles. Remember, it'll give us the 5-number summary, the minimum, maximum, then the quartiles. Okay, so the median is also 4. Okay, so there's no directions here on showing your work or explaining where you get your answer from. But if you wanted to calculate it yourself, remember to find the location of the median. If you have 100 data values, the location for the median L would be n plus 1, so 100 plus 1 over 2. So that location is 50.5. So that would mean you have to average the 50th and 51st data values. So as you count into the data set, now I'm just going to come from the larger end, 21, trying to get to 50 and the 51st value to find their average? 21 isn't far enough. Well, if I go 40 more data values, you've gone a cumulative total of 61 from this end. So that's well past 50 and 51. So that means that this row or this interval contains the 50th and 51st data value, and they're both 4. Okay, so the median will give you 4. Okay, the last thing to look at here is something every now and then you run into called relative frequency. And all that relative frequency tells you the number of classes each student takes relative to the rest. Well, there are 12 students out of 100 that only took one class. So 12 out of 100 is 0.12, or 12%. So all that relative frequency does, it takes the frequency of each data value and divides it by the total frequency. Now, this might not have been the best example to use because of the 100 and thinking about percentages, but let's just suppose that was 90 students instead for the total. Well, this one you would do 12 over 90, and then 9 over 90, and so on. But the total frequency would only be 90. Well, with the total frequency of 100, you're essentially just making the 12, 9, 18, and so on a percentage written as a decimal. So 9 out of 100 is 0.09, and so on. I have them written down here so it's easier to see. Okay, so that's how you find relative frequency.